welcome back to another riveting episode of Buggy Reviews. Today's episode, we're going to be covering a game. Sort of, I guess. But we're going to be covering Dispatch. Now, to start off the little preamble here, I've always been a fan of Telltale games, or at least most of them to a degree. I've played their Guardians of the Galaxy, I played their Batman ones. I think I even tried a little bit of their, I want to say Walking Dead, maybe? Maybe, it's been a minute. But there's a couple of them that I've always kind of had an interest in. That choose your own adventure style thing. Sure, throw some quick time events and whatnot. And now, granted, it did fall off a little bit near the tail end. But for some of their stuff, like Batman, I think was some of the best stuff I've seen come out of that company. And unfortunately, that company went bankrupt. However, said people behind that group decided to come back and form a new studio with the members of the Critical Role people. For those that might not know, they're the guys that do stuff like Vox Machina or Mighty Nine, that kind of stuff. So there's like a mixture of these like two groups that form together to create Ad Hoc Studios, which is the creators behind Dispatch. Now, Dispatch is basically the evolution of Telltale. Like, it's your story-driven stuff, choices and dialogue and whatnot, but the main quote-unquote gameplay beyond the obvious quick-time events is like a min-maxing kind of thing where you're trying to figure out what hero to send to the right situation, right? Basic premise is that you are a former superhero known as Mecha Man, voiced by Jason Aaron, otherwise known as Jesse Pinkman. Wait, no, not Aaron. Not Jason Aaron. Aaron Paul. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting things already. But, yeah. You were our Mecha Man. You were a top-of-the-line, badass superhero with your own mech suit. However, your mech suit got destroyed, and you're not able to repair it without the necessary funding and support. However, the SDN, the Superhero Dispatch Network, has come to you with an offer to dispatch superheroes in exchange to help build you back up and make you Mecha Man once more. And that's the core aspect. And you are put in charge of a group of former supervillains that are trying to get on the redemption tour, but as one could expect, as former supervillains, they are kind of a bit of a hassle to deal with. Some of them have beef with Mecha Man personally, some are just chaotic, and you're trying to somehow manage to make these guys work. And along the way, you have to start interacting with them personally and, make some tough calls and choices here. And I think this was a very fun experience. I think when it makes certain choices feel like it's a tough call, it really solidifies the writing for it. It solidifies the writing of the characters and the story when you do get stuck in that moment where you're like, oh God, what do I choose in this particular scenario, in this particular situation, I would say the animation quality and the art style is very nice. I like it. It flows very nicely. It has this, good stylized look to it. It doesn't feel ashamed of wearing the superhero, colors on its sleeve, in the tone of it. Obviously for people that are well aware of Critical Role and their style, that could really determine your mileage on how you can handle some of the jokes and whatnot, but they never go in the route of The Boys, where all the characters are all degenerates and ridiculous, stupid morons that are just there to say how superheroes are bad, blah, 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 blah. No, at worst case, you just get a bunch of goofballs, and most of the characters are pretty consistent with what they are, and they are enjoyable. Obviously it depends on your mileage to certain ones. I think a couple of my favorites were obviously Mecha Man. Like, I liked him. I liked Blonde Blazer. I liked Coop. I liked Trackstar. A lot of these supporting characters that help you out in the story. Even some characters which I were not too big on, like maybe Invisigal. I like Laura Bailey. I like her performance. I liked Invisigal, and I understand why people like her. She just didn't gel for me, and there are certain characters I didn't quite dig at all, like Sonar, who was voiced by Moist Critical, and Malevola, who was voiced by Alana Pierce, which I don't like at all, because I'm not a big fan of her. I like the design of the character. Now, obviously as the story, progresses and whatnot, you're starting to get closer and closer to the big bad of the season, Shroud, the guy who's killed your father and is trying to reclaim this specific MacGuffin thing that powers your mech, and he's going to use it for evil, diabolical plans. That's kind of it. But, however, it doesn't really take too much of the foreground until, the last 2 episodes. For the most part, you're just trying to manage these, wacky characters and somehow make it work. You're trying to talk to them. You're trying to, see how they are, how they operate, and try to use their strengths and weaknesses to your advantage to make them an effective team. Now, obviously, depending on the choices, which is kind of interesting, because Telltale used to have a record where, some of the choices just didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, it's it's either choice A or choice B, but it eventually just goes to the same choice regardless. Here, it doesn't feel like that way. It's like you can, depending on how you could go about it, you could change things drastically in certain ways, that could, really affect it. Sure, maybe the endings might become a little more filtered within, a 2 or 3 section, but the little parts and bits actually, they've taken into account. So it does feel like when you play it, it does become your own experience, your own movie, little series to go for, And obviously, if you're not a fan of the QuickTime events stuff, you could obviously just turn that off so you don't have to worry about that at all. The only gameplay factor you have to do is just the dialogue and some hacking mini games, and then the main dispatching part, which is not really that difficult, really. I think once you figure out the hang of it and sort of just know what to do, there you go. There's your part. That's it. That's all it is in that story. And for I don't know how to explain this without going into trying to spoil the story more or less, but it's, I don't know, at least the route that I took with it. I went at it a little protected, you play as Robert, and you're trying to tell, you have the choice to tell, people who you are, or, not do that, or just anything that you think would work. And obviously, the choices you make do affect how people react to you. Even in the, main dispatching gameplay, where certain choices you make in prior episodes can affect it in the gameplay. So, it does have that meme choices matter thing with Telltale, hey, when you make a choice with this, it does come back to bite you in the ass later, or if you made this particular choice, it helps you out, It really does, feel like the game notices when you do certain things. Maybe 1 or 2 bits, I think didn't really matter in the end, but they were, so minuscule that it's whatever, it doesn't matter at the end of the day there. I'd say the voice performances, aside from, Alana Pierce, was all pretty on the board, pretty good. This game's got 3 YouTubers voicing like the main like Z team, the cast of people you're operating with. You have Moist Critical, Jacksepticeye, and Alana Pierce. Jacksepticeye, I think, was the best out of the trio because I think his character just was written around him, and I think they just didn't make much of the stereotypes of him. He's just, he's just charming in his own way. Sonar, voiced by Moist Critical, was like, yeah, it's okay. I can see where he's going from, but I just wasn't particularly fond of the character, so that just didn't really work on me. And Alana Pierce was like the worst in terms of voice acting for me. Like the character design, and the character could be interesting, but anytime she spoke, I immediately regretted ever liking the character, and that's just my personal preference there. I loved like Blonde Blazer. Like a lot of people were saying that she might be, a trick, an evil character, you will. But no, she's actually a very supportive and very heartwarming like character, especially when you get to know her. Like, she is essentially your boss in this. She comes to you with the proposition of running the dispatch group, and doing all this. But when she comes to you with a thing, she doesn't boss you around or demean you or anything. She just goes, hey, look, here's the thing we got to do, but like how you want to tackle the situation is completely up to you. I'll support you, no problem. But like, here's the thing, like we got to do this thing because that's what we got to do. How we tackle it is up to you. We have option A, we have option B, there you go. And it's like, you know what? That's kind of cool because it does make it feel more in your power. Like, it's like, hey, you have more of a grasp on it. You have more power in the situation. You have control. So when things happen as a result of said choices, it has a better effect. It's like, oh wow, it does affect when said character comes back after things I did in prior episodes. Oh shit, it actually makes an impact. It makes an effect, And my route, I wound up getting like a particularly interesting ending that wasn't even a part of like the main, I guess, the quote unquote super good, like everybody wins ending, which really showcased how much thought they put into this. Like, I think Telltale really looked at what they did right in their stuff and what they didn't do right, and really gave it their all on this. And I would say I definitely want a season 2 if they ever make one. I heard they're talking about it, and like, that's it. I know that all this is just a bunch of me babbling around like a moron, but that's just what my reviews are, and I really don't want to spoil this. I mean, I know it kind of be a little difficult to spoil, because, depending on what route you take, you could get some crazy scenarios or whatnot. But I would say if you are interested in trying a Telltale-style game, and experiencing a new world of superheroes that doesn't, like, shit on the superhero brand, that they genuinely love superheroes and, like, they wear that pride on their sleeves, go and try it. I know that the Critical Role style humor can be hit or miss with some people, so just a preface. I know that some of the voice actors could be hit or miss, depending on what it is, but like, if you want my recommendation, sure, go check it out. It's only like $30 on Steam or wherever you can go get it. All 8 episodes are out right now. Like, go ahead and try it out, see what you think, have fun with it. And with that said, I'm gonna leave it there. Have you played Dispatch? What are your thoughts on it? Leave it down in the comment section below. I like to read comments. Thank you very much. Also, I did all the streams on Dispatch. So if you want my, like, upfront, like, first impression views of it as I was doing it, all of the VODs are on my channel with every single episode. You can go check them out and see the live playthrough that I did. I did all 8 episodes. So there's about 4 streams there to check out. Go right ahead and watch it. There's some funny shenanigans that happens in there. Also, if you have anything in the superhero genre you want me to cover or talk about, leave it down in the comment section below. I really like reading comments. I know that I say that a lot. But anyways, thank you all for coming along and watching. See ya. Bye!